Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder. Today, Addict Third Nicholas Partners SCGF just filed their semi-annual shareholder report, and I'm seeing some interesting shifts in their investments. Quick note, this is not financial advice, just my take on public filings for educational purposes. This report highlights how the fund navigated the markets over the last 6 months, and it gives us a peek into what they are holding and how they are performing. Let's dive into the key details of this filing from the advisors Inner Circle Fund III, specifically looking at the Nicholas Partners Small Cap Growth Fund. This report covers the period ending the 31st of March 2026. They are giving us a snapshot of their holdings and financial health. First off, let's talk about costs. For a hypothetical investment of $10,000 in the Nicholas Partners Small Cap Growth Fund institutional shares, the costs for the last 6 months were $51. This is about 0.99% of that investment. It gives you a clear idea of the expenses involved in holding these shares. Now, for some key statistics as of the 31st of March 2026, the fund's total net assets were $149,390,974. They held 95 different investments, which tells us they are quite diversified within their strategy. The total advisory fees paid out were $532,967, and the portfolio turnover rate was 77%. A turnover rate of 77% means that about 3/4 of the fund's holdings were bought and sold within the year. This suggests an active trading strategy aiming to capitalize on market movements. Looking at what the fund invested in, the sector weightings give us a picture of their focus. Industrials made up the largest portion at 34.2%, followed by healthcare at 22.5%, and information technology at 17.1%. These are the core areas where the fund sees opportunities. On the smaller side, utilities represented just 0.5%, and exchange. Traded funds were at 0.6%. It's important to remember that these percentages are calculated based on total net assets. Digging into the specifics, the top 10 holdings reveal some of their largest bets. BWX Technologies is number 1 at 4.7% of total net assets. Revolution Medicines is next at 3.0%, followed by Modine Manufacturing at 2.8%. Insmed holds 2.6%. And Kratos Defense and Security Solutions also at 2.5%. Sterling Infrastructure, Par Pacific Holdings, Embraer ADR FTAI Aviation, and Bridgebio Pharma round out the top 10, all holding between 2.1 and 2.5%. This shows a concentrated approach within their top positions, meaning these specific companies have a significant impact on the fund's overall performance. Interestingly, there were no material changes mentioned during this reporting period. This implies a stable investment strategy and approach for the fund. Now let's move to the detailed schedule of investments. This is where we see the Nicholas Partners Small Cap Growth Fund's actual holdings. Nearly all of their assets, 98.1%, are in common stocks. In communication services, they hold Sphere Entertainment, valued at $2,444,033. In the consumer discretionary sector, their holdings include Abercrombie & Fitch, Boot Barn Holdings, Callaway Golf, Gap, Lincoln Educational Services, Lindblad Expeditions Holdings, Patrick Industries, Rush Street Interactive, Stephen Madden, and Texas Roadhouse. The total value here is $13,395,400. For consumer staples, their investments in Chef's Warehouse and Once Upon a Farm PBC add up to $1,826,966. In the energy sector, they've invested in Par Pacific Holdings and Uranium Energy, totaling $4,068,299. Financial sector holdings include Lending Club, Piper Sandler, Seacoast Banking Corp of Florida, and Wintrust Financial, with a total value of $6,561,545. The healthcare sector is a major focus with a total value of $33,618,237. This includes a variety of companies like Abivax, Adia, Apogee, Therapeutics, Axum Therapeutics, Bridgebio Pharma, Calcuity, Cogent Biosciences, Cytokinetics, Dianthus Therapeutics. Enliven Therapeutics, Idea Biosciences, Insmed, Chimera Therapeutics, Mirum Pharmaceuticals, New Amsterdam Pharma, Nuvalent Palvella Therapeutics, Praxis Precision Medicines, Revolution Medicines, Rivant Sciences, Scholar Rock Holding Vera Therapeutics, Viridian Therapeutics, and Xenon Pharmaceuticals. Many of these are marked as non-income producing securities, indicating a focus on growth potential. The industrial sector, as noted before, is the largest at 34.2%, totaling $51,002,865. Their holdings here are diverse, including Argon, Bloom Energy, BWX Technologies, Carpenter Technology, Construction Partners, Crane, Embraer, ADR, Flowserve, FTAI Aviation, Georgia TX, Graham, JBT Marel, Joby Aviation, Kratos Defense and Security Solutions, Modine Manufacturing, Next Power, Planet Labs PBC, Powell Industries, Rocket Lab USA, Sire, SkyWest, Solve Energy, Sterling Infrastructure, and TFI Engineer. In information technology valued at $25,597,110, they have investments in advanced energy industries, Applied Digital, Applied Optoelectronics, Astra Labs, Core Scientific Credo Technology Group Holding, Descartes Systems Group, Fabrinet Interdigital, Lattice Semiconductor Massachusetts Com Technology Solutions Holdings, Nova Onto Innovation, OSI Systems, Procore Technologies, Rambus, Sanmina, Semtech, Citime, TerraWolf, Ultra Clean Holdings, and Unity Software. For materials, their investments in Century Aluminum and MP Materials total $3,778,720. In real estate, they hold Compass and Tanger, totaling $3,555,342. Tanger is noted as a real estate investment trust or REIT, which is a company that owns, operates, or finances income generating real estate. And in utilities, they have Ormat Technologies, valued at $752,774. The total for common stock is $146,601,291. The cost for these investments was $104,198,541, showing a significant unrealized gain. They also hold an exchange-traded fund, specifically the eShares Russell 2000 Growth ETF, valued at $823,751. The cost for this was $852,453. In total, their investments amount to $147,425,042, with a cost of $105,050,994. This means they are holding investments that have appreciated significantly since they were purchased. Moving on to the statement of assets and liabilities. On the asset side, where the fund's value is listed, investments are valued at $147,425,042. They also have cash of $3,173,845. On the liability side, they have payables for investment securities purchased at $1,277,997 and other accrued expenses. The net assets of the fund stand at $149,390,974. This is the true net worth of the fund available to shareholders. The net asset value or NAV per S-share for institutional shares is $18.49. This is calculated by dividing the total net assets by the number of shares outstanding. Now let's look at the statement of operations, which details the fund's income and expenses over the period. Investment income from dividends and interest amounted to $315,206. However, expenses were significantly higher, totaling $733,876, after accounting for some waivers of advisory fees and fees paid indirectly. The net expenses were $721,056. This resulted in a net investment loss of $405,850. The fund did see gains from its investments. Net realized gain on investments was $8,404,661. Additionally, there was a net change in unrealized appreciation on investments of $1,687,137. This means that paper gains on the portfolio that haven't been sold yet are adding to the fund's value. Altogether, the net increase in net assets resulting from operations was $9,685,960. So, despite the investment loss, the realized and unrealized gains more than made up for it. The statements of changes in net assets show how the fund's value has evolved. The net increase in net assets resulting from operations for the 6 months ending the 31st of March 2026 was $9,685,960. This is a substantial increase. Looking at the capital share transactions for institutional shares, there was a net increase due to shares issued, reinvestment of dividends and redemptions. The net result was an increase in net assets from share transactions of $12,573,344 for the period. The total increase in net assets for the 6-month period was $16,231,245. This brings the beginning net assets of over $133 million up to nearly $149.4 million by the end of the period, reflecting strong growth. Finally, let's look at the financial highlights, which provides per share data and ratios. For institutional shares, the net asset value per S-share at the beginning of the 6-month period was $18.03. After the operations and capital share transactions, the net asset value at the end of the period rose to $18.49. This represents a gain of about 2.5% in net asset value per share during this 6-month period. The total return for this 6-month period was 7.25%. It is important to note that this return is for the period indicated and has not been annualized. The ratio of expenses to average net assets is 0.99%. This is consistent with the cost information we saw earlier and indicates a stable expense structure for the fund. The portfolio turnover rate for this 6-month period was 77%, again confirming the active trading strategy. This is lower than the 147% reported for the full year ended the 30th of September 2025, which is expected given this is a semi-annual report. Under the notes to financial statements, we find more detail. The fund is organized as a Delaware statutory trust and is registered as an open-end management investment company. Its investment objective is to seek long-term capital appreciation, investing in small capitalization companies. Nicholas Investment Partners LP serves as the investment advisor. The fund values its securities using market quotes when available. For securities where market prices are not readily available, they use fair value procedures established by the advisor and approved by the board of trustees. This is important because it ensures that all assets are valued consistently. They use a 3-level hierarchy for fair value measurements: level 1 for unadjusted quoted prices, level 2 for other observable inputs, and level 3 for unobservable inputs. The report states that as of the 31st of March 2026, all of the fund's investments were considered level 1. This means their holdings are primarily in active markets with readily available quoted prices. The fund intends to qualify as a regulated investment company for federal income tax purposes, meaning it generally does not pay corporate income taxes as long as it distributes its income and gains to shareholders. The report details various risks including market risk, equity market risk, small capitalization companies risk, growth style risk, IPO risk, sector emphasis risk, REITs risk, foreign investment, emerging markets risk, ETFs risk, liquidity risk, convertible securities risk, depository receipts risk, currency risk, and management risk. The emphasis on small cap growth stocks means investors should be aware of the potential for higher volatility compared to larger, more established companies. A notable point is that at the 31st of March 2026, 93% of total shares outstanding were held by one affiliated shareholder owning 10% or greater. This means a large portion of the fund's ownership is concentrated with a single entity, which could have implications for liquidity or voting power if that shareholder were to make a significant move. The section on the basis for approval of the investment advisory contract details the Board of Trustees review process for renewing the contract with Nicholas Investment Partners, LP. They evaluated the nature, extent, and quality of services, investment performance, costs, profitability, and economies of scale. The board concluded that the advisory fee was reasonable and renewed the agreement. The fund is actively managed with a clear focus on small cap growth companies, primarily in the industrials, healthcare, and information technology sectors. The recent performance shows positive returns driven by strong gains in its investment holdings, outweighing a slight net investment loss. The concentration of top holdings and the significant shareholder concentration are points to watch, but the overall financial health as presented in this report appears stable. If you found this breakdown helpful in understanding the Nicholas Partners Small Cap Growth Fund's latest report, please hit that like button, subscribe for more, and check out the Discord community in the description. That is my take. Stay decoded.